breathe in and out for me. Little drop, light push. Good. Now that was more in the middle back, sort of between T2 and about T5. Nice way of releasing the pressure here. That helps you already naturally sink the shoulder blades back rather than hiking them up, which is causing these ones to get tight. Over time, and like I said with you, this is very, very minor, I'm starting to see this kind of posture pattern developing, where you're quite tight in your lower back muscles, and as a result, like you said, it feels like your shoulders are a little bit uneven and a little bit rounded. Again, that could be from carrying heavy bags, it could be from carrying young kids, you know, we've kind of ruled that out with you. But with some patients, and again, this would be more a factor if you have this issue and you spend a lot of time on your feet, which you mentioned you don't, if you're wearing the wrong kind of footwear, it can also develop as well. So it's not something I would expect you to worry about at all, but it's worth telling you since obviously you've come in today as well. But the next adjustment I'm going to do is the really key one with you. It's called a CT adjustment, and it will release the pressure much more here where these knots have kind of developed into these muscles. This is where the bulk of the muscle is, and then what happens is the tendons of those muscles are the ones that pull on the neck and create a lot of pressure in the neck. So I'm just going to release through here and here, okay? Again, can be a little bit nervous first time getting this area adjusted, but it will be nice and safe, I promise. Ready? Lift your head forward and just give your head a little bit of a twist and a turn. Try and relax your head there. Ready? Just want to do one more adjustment if I can on this left side for you, if that's okay? Again, I don't want to have to push hard, so the more you relax, the easier it is. Happy with that? Mm-hmm. There we go. Was that okay?
Yeah.
That was the main one because, like I said, that's the one that's the most blocked, and it did require a little bit more of a push, but we got it to go. Now, the basic version involves you dropping your body weight to the left, keep going, sticking your hip out to the right. Can you feel a bit of a stretch when you get into here?
Yeah.
I want you to pull this band and pull it more towards your chest area. Good. Can you feel how these muscles are all tensing and kind of causing you to lift up? That'll do. Relax. Now, relax. Now pull much more lower into the hip, into the belly button. Good. Didn't raise through here, and can you feel that engagement much more through the middle back?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So, obviously I use the glass ones, and I mentioned there are different types. There's some silicone ones as well, in different types. And they can be used on different parts of the body. This would obviously just be...
Yeah.
And just creates that suction. Maybe not as deep as the air one, but again, more for facial areas. Can be quite nice as well. So I'm just going to release the first cup. A little pss of air if you had it.
Yeah.
Just going to release the right one now too. So in this image, we've got a very normal neck, which has kind of got that natural kyphosis that we're lordosis that we're talking about of the cervical spine. That nice sort of inward curve. Hey Melissa.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. I'm Bav. So with you today, we're booked in for your new patient consultation appointment. So with the appointment today, it's kind of split into three parts. First part, really basic admin. I just want to get to know you a little bit better. Really background questions, just trying to work out more about your daily routine. We're then going to go through a bit more details about what's kind of bringing you in today, if it's back pain, neck pain, shoulder pain, whatever it might be. Even if there's no issues, normally patients come in just because they want to be checked with their posture and be preventative of stuff, which is important. After we've done all that, we're going to go through a bit of an examination where I'm trying to obviously work out what the cause of the issue is, and then as a result we'll explain what we found, and then we'll get on with some treatment, but I'll explain more of what treatment involves in that stage. Happy with that?
Yeah, sounds
Perfect.
great, thank you.
So first couple of questions, like I said, really basic and introductory. First question, occupation-wise, day-to-day, what would you say it is that your main occupation role is?
Yeah, so I'm an admin assistant, so lots of desk work.
So with you in a typical average day, what's the most you find that you're sitting sedentary before getting up and taking a break? About an hour to 2 hours average.
Yeah, probably a good 2 hours sometimes, yeah.
Working from the home, working from office, kind of a mix of both?
Office, entirely office.
And do you have one screen or two screens?
One big one in front of me.
Cool. And what about standing, being active, being on your feet? In an average day, what's the most amount of time you're ever on your feet before sitting down and taking a break? 20, 30 minutes, maybe up to an hour at the gym, or if you go for a run, for example?
Gosh, it would be under 30.
It's crazy when you think about it, right, sometimes. But do you get your 10,000 steps in a day, do you think, roughly?
If I go on a walk in my lunch break, yes. If not, no.
Okay. Something already to work on there.
Yeah.
With work, or again just personally, do you travel quite regularly? Car journeys, train journeys, but flights in particular?
Flights not since COVID. Yeah. but travelling, I commute to London every day by train, so...
How long is that?
Both ways, 3 hours in total.
Oh, so quite 1.5 hours in, 1.5 hours out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you have any young kids of your own?
No.
Nieces, nephews, younger brothers, sisters? Any young kids in your life that you would be kind of carrying or lifting fairly often?
No. I have cats, but I know that's probably
That is the next question.
Oh,
Pets.
okay.
So yeah, pets, animals that you look after?
Yes, yeah.
Cats.
3 cats.
Oh wow. Cats in a weird way normally do their own thing, I always tell patients, as you probably know as well, whereas dogs need a bit more attention. But still when you're carrying and lifting the cats, it can be a small factor as well.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, cool. So 3 cats. So really background information, but really helpful. In your own words now, what's kind of bringing you in today? What's the main issue?
My main issue is this shoulder, my right shoulder. I feel like I don't know if it's my imagination, but it comes forward a lot more than the other one, and often if I've used the computer too much, or like the mouse, it really hurts by the evening. So, but I've had that for like over 10 years. So
that's my next question. So originally you've noticed this problem for about 10 years.
Yeah.
When you kind of first had it, was it something that you could kind of easily ignore, or even then was it quite annoying and a nuisance?
Even then, when I noticed it, it was really painful, like at school, sat at the desk.
How would you best describe it yourself? Like a dullness, a throbbing, an ache, a stabbing? How would you best describe that discomfort?
More like a piercing pain.
Okay. So it can get quite uncomfortable at some points.
Yeah, like it's not constant, but when it happens it's really sharp and painful.
This next question is a bit of a weirdly phrased one, but what's kind of making you come in now to get it checked? Is it because you find you just have a bit more time, you've just understood more about chiropractic, having more time to come in, for example? Anything particular? Or have the symptoms changed? Have they got worse, for example?
They've definitely got worse since I started working full-time, but also now I've just, since I am working full-time, I've got the money to kind of spend on fixing the things that bother me.
Makes sense as well. No, which is a fair question, which is actually it's a weird one to ask, but it's still quite helpful to know. You mentioned the desk work and things like that. It can always feel a bit achy and sore when you've had a busy day and things as well. Is there any other activity or almost one-off movement that you notice gives you the most discomfort? Carrying your bag, for example, swimming, combing your hair, any random movements like that ever irritate it? Something you almost avoid doing because you know it's going to give you shoulder discomfort.
I think it's if I am on my laptop or something, or my iPad in bed, actually just tapping the screen, selecting a YouTube video or anything like that can be painful.
Okay. What helps it when it is like that, if anything? Stretches that painkillers, adjusting or clicking your own neck or trying to stretch it out like that?
Yeah, clicking my neck and also just lying flat or just trying to lie my shoulders out as flat as possible.
So trying to stretch it out a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Now, clicking your neck is not a bad thing to do. I'm going to explain more about this a little bit later. It is a bad thing if you're doing it too much. And that's what we get with a lot of patients. A couple of times a week, max, not a big deal. But you get a lot of people that are trying to do it almost a couple of times a day. And I'll explain a little bit later how this issue has nothing to do with your neck and more to do with your upper back. So actually, it's about working on the right area, not necessarily just where you're feeling the symptoms as well. Okay. Don't worry about this question too much. But when you do sometimes get this neck and shoulder issue, do you ever get issues going down your arm a little bit, like a bit of a numbness, tingling, either into the arm, into the top of the chest, or even in between the shoulder blades? If you ever noticed.
I've never noticed that, no.
So it's fairly localised to that kind of area you mentioned in the upper back and shoulders?
Yeah, very much here. Yeah.
Okay. Maybe a little bit into the chest there, or not really?
Yeah, more the neck than the chest,
no,
I
good,
think.
Good, fine. Okay. Anything else you want to mention? Anything else you might think is relevant about this problem? Any other issues you want me to check on?
Any other issues? Sometimes chest pain, but I don't know if that's related. I think I do have awful posture, so...
Probably is linked to that, so we'll explain all about that as we go through. Fine. Cool. So a couple more background questions, and then we're going to move into your exam. So really background health stuff. But cardiovascular with you, high blood pressure, low blood pressure, cholesterol, any heart issues you're aware of?
Not that I'm aware of.
Breathing, a bit more important with you, but asthma, hay fever, sinuses, just general shortness of breath, unfit, anything like that you notice?
Hay fever, yes. Unfit,
bad
yes.
This week as well, the hay fever.
It's really bad today. Shortness of breath, sometimes, yes. But I don't know if that's unfitness or...
Could be something else potentially as well. Yeah. Fine, yeah, we'll look into that a little bit more for you today as well. Any dislocations, fractures, any other issues or injuries that you've ever had to your body?
No, never had a big injury that I know of.
No surgeries, for example, no things like
no.
that. Okay, cool. And a few more background questions. Any regular medication that you take?
Regular? I take vitamin D supplements.
So supplements is a separate section, that's fine.
Okay.
So Vit D, anything else regularly, semi-regularly with vitamins?
Iron.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no medication,
Good.
no.
Would you ever take a painkiller, for example, if you get like any discomforts? Like headaches, for example, is that a regular occurrence for you?
Sometimes, yeah. But even when it's quite bad, I'm weirdly stubborn about taking medicine.
Fine,
so
if you can sort of get it to the issue more naturally, why not, right?
Yeah.
Fine. Okay, so we're done for this first section, so now we're going to move on into the exam, okay? I'm going to put my tablet down.
Okay.
Can I get you to just come and have a little stand here next to me? So what I'm going to be doing is just having a little feel of some of the muscles, joints in your body and everything as well, okay? Let me know if anything's uncomfortable at any point. Just going to place my hands on your shoulders, okay? So where I'm poking you here on the left, can you feel where my thumb is there, a little bit tender?
Yeah.
And here on the right?
Yeah.
A bit more tender on the right, would you say?
Yeah,
Are
quite
you
a lot.
right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay. While my hands are here, what I want you to do, Melissa, is look over your right shoulder, trying to look at me. Go as much as you feel comfortable. That'll do. Relax. Look at me over your left shoulder now, please. That'll do. Relax. Did you feel any pain when you did that?
No.
Look down towards the floor as much as you feel comfortable. Good. Look up towards the ceiling now for me again as much as you feel comfortable. That'll do. Relax. Can I get you to drop your left ear to your left shoulder? Good. And drop your right ear to your right shoulder. Good. Relax back into the middle. How did those movements feel?
Yeah, it was
Not uncomfortable in
yeah.
any way? Only as much as you feel comfortable now. Bend down, touch your toes, go as far as you feel comfortable. Palm flat on the floor if you can get there.
Yeah.
Good effort. No, good effort. Come back up for me. That'll do. And relax. Comfortable? Just move your hair out of the way a little bit. So I'm just having a little feel of all the kind of joints, muscles, and your posture in general. So I know you've kind of come in for the issue around the right shoulder blade, and I've kind of seen what I've needed to see around the right shoulder. Again, with chiropractic treatment, we're not just looking at kind of the symptoms you're coming in with, we're trying to work out the cause of the problem, so kind of get the issue to resolve not just short term with our treatments, but sort of more medium and long term as well. So again, when I'm poking into your lower back, I can feel quite a lot of muscular tension. Can you feel that spot there, for example? It's quite sensitive, right?
Yeah.
And here on the left, not so bad?
Left is better, yeah.
Yeah. And then there's definitely some tension all the way through the spine and the posture. Can you feel that there, for example?
Yeah.
Not bad.
Left or not?
More a little bit on the left. Can I just bend your right knee? I'm just going to bring your heel towards your glute. Any pain in your knees or in your back when I do that?
No.
Same again with that left knee.
Yeah,
Any
that's
pain?
fine.
Good. When you're ready, Melissa, can I get you to turn over onto your back for me? Take your time as you turn over onto your back for me, okay? So now I'm just going to have a little feel of the neck and shoulders. Just lift your head up for me and just relax the weight of the head for me as well. Try and let the head relax as much as you feel comfortable. I know it's always difficult meeting a stranger for the first time and then just telling you to relax your head. So I'm just having a little feel of the facet joints in your neck, and I'll explain what those are in a couple of minutes. But again, when you feel me prodding on them, can you feel how a couple of them are quite tender, especially that one on the right?
Yeah.
I promise you I'm not poking a lot, but that's how sensitive it kind of is in your neck, and this is where you do feel a lot of that tension and that kind of desire sometimes to click your own neck as well. Like for me, honestly, both sides are probably as tight as each other. In fact, I'd argue the left is actually tighter than the right.
Oh, really?
But, yeah, there is quite a lot of sensitivity on the right as well. Can you feel that bump there as well?
Yeah.
And again, sorry to repeat this question, but you don't get headaches, do you? Or migraines or any issues like that?
Not too often.
Okay, good. And again, you can feel that pressure point there, can't you? Just where my hand is there. And the other way. Good. When you're ready, sit back up and just face either way, left or right for me. Take your time as you get back up.
Yeah, no, I do. When I do get headaches, they're really, really bad, but they're not like...
Super quick. Then what I'd like you to do now, just march on the spot for me. That'll do, Melissa. And relax. Just going to check your feet now, okay? Okay, interesting. All done with this section.
Interesting.
I'll explain what I found in a few minutes. So Melissa, following on from the exam, what I'm going to basically explain now is what I've found, what the issue is, and obviously maybe what's causing the issue and how we can work backwards to kind of improve all these things. So what I've generally noticed is there's a lot of tight muscles in your upper back and shoulder. The primary culprit is this muscle, known as your levator scapulae. Levator scapulae is a muscle that sits on the top of the shoulder blade, as you can see here, and its tendons insert into a lot of the facet joints in the neck, pulling and creating a lot of pressure on the neck, and that's why I mentioned that a lot of people feel that need to constantly be stretching the neck, whereas the issue is coming more from the upper back and shoulders. Now, a lot of other muscles are quite tight as well, such as your traps, suboccipitals, but definitely the one that's causing the majority of the issues is the levator scapulae. And then what we're going to be doing during the treatment is loosening up a lot of the muscle tension around that area and adjusting the joints and where this muscle is pulling and creating pressure. But another term that I could use to better describe the symptoms and the posture that you've come in with sounds very aggressive when you're saying it in this way, but you have a posture issue known as upper cross syndrome, which sounds much more aggressive than what it is. It's basically trying to explain that you have a lot of muscular imbalances, especially the upper part of your body, and a little bit in the lower part of the body, where a lot of muscles, like we've explained, levator scapulae and traps, are quite tight, also the pecs and the SCM. So in the short term, what we're looking to do is loosen up a lot of these tight muscles, get you feeling better, less pressure building up on the joints, generally maintaining a good posture. But what you might then find yourself often is very quickly reverting back into the bad position. That's when we switch the treatment into almost its second part, which is not so much based around loosening up the tight areas, but more about strengthening the areas that are quite weak as well. So muscles such as your rhomboids, lower traps, serratus anterior. And then longer term, there's a way of benefiting, keeping less pain, keeping the right posture. It's not just a case of doing stretches, but the right balance between the stretches and the exercises, based on your lifestyle, your routine as well. And the interesting thing is, again, a lot of people can have these posture issues for different reasons, hence why I was asking you a lot of the questions. Sometimes these posture habits can develop from people who have bad breathing patterns. Sometimes there can be congenital issues. Sometimes, like you said, is most commonly, forward desk posture when people are working at screens, so bad desk setups. Breastfeeding can be a common issue with patients that are pregnant. And that's what I like. Even though a lot of patients come to us for kind of the same issue, every person is unique as to why they have their problem. So it's almost like a detective show where I'm trying to work out for that person why they have the issue, not necessarily just what their issue is, which can normally be quite a straightforward one as well. Now, the second issue I've noticed with you, which is relatively minor, but again, we'd probably have to look into it a little bit more in the long term. I don't know if you've ever noticed this yourself, but you have a small bunion on your foot.
Oh, okay.
Left foot, I think it is.
Wait, what exactly is a bunion?
I will explain in a second. Do you want to show me your feet again? There. See that point on that side of the foot, which is just poking out a little bit? That's called a bunion. Now, what a bunion is like a little bit of a bony growth starting to develop. It's very minor. It sounds like it's more aggressive than what it is.
It sounds so gross.
Yeah, no. I'll show you on Google what the worst kind of bunions look like, actually, so you realise you're nowhere near as bad as that. No, nowhere near as bad as that. Bunions are basically just where the body starts to put down a bit more of a bony growth in the certain parts of the feet, especially when it's having more stress applied into that area. So this is what bunions can look like when they're really quite bad. Okay. So you have a very minor bunion starting to develop sort of here on your left foot, just around where the big toe is.
Okay.
Now, the reason that's interesting, and again, depends on certain patients, it just maybe means that you might be rolling your foot in a little bit more when you're someone that's walking or running. Don't know if that's something you've noticed where sometimes maybe your shoes wear out a bit more on one side, for example. Doesn't have to be something it is.
Never noticed.
Something to notice. Sometimes a lot of people who work in retail, again, are on their feet for long periods. Now, over time, and like I said with you, this is very, very minor, I'm starting to see this kind of posture pattern developing, where you're quite tight in your lower back muscles, and as a result, like you said, it feels like your shoulders are a little bit uneven and a little bit rounded. Again, that could be from carrying heavy bags, it could be from carrying young kids, we've kind of ruled that out with you. But with some patients, and again, this would be more a factor if you have this issue and you spend a lot of time on your feet, which you mentioned you don't, if you're wearing the wrong kind of footwear, it can also develop as well. So it's not something I would expect you to worry about at all, but it's worth telling you since obviously you've come in today as well. But like I said, it would be a simple case of maybe again just getting you to wear better shoes, or when you're on your feet a lot more, just doing certain exercises to build on as well. But yeah, something I thought would worth mentioning, but very, very minor.
Oh gosh.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Perfect. So you've never kind of noticed that so much yourself in the past?
Never noticed before. And I just wear trainers every day.
New Balance A6, I can already tell you, are one of the better brands to wear when you're on your feet. You probably even noticed you're more comfortable when you're on your feet.
I traded to New Balance during sixth form and never
look back. So what the biggest difference is compared to like Skechers is it has these bumps here, which are like the arch supports.
Sorry if they're gross, I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. So that basically means it's supporting your arches better, so you're not kind of rolling your foot in as much, but obviously you must be doing just that little bit more. Whereas some shoes, for example, they seem like they're good, especially like brands like Skechers with the foam, which is what people are looking for.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't want things to be too soft and spongy. You're actually just looking at the support in the right places.
Yeah.
And brands like New Balance, A6, ON, a lot of those trainers naturally always come with that support built in. And again, that can then help to avoid posture issues like this.
So the shoes
in
are
future.
okay?
Shoes are perfectly fine. Like I said, it's a very minor thing that you're doing in the first place. Okay. But if you ever were to be spending a lot more time on your feet and then you notice actually you were starting to get more back pain, maybe this could be the reason why. And again, there's stretches and exercises to show you and work on then to correct that issue as well. Whereas right now it's a very minor issue. So what we mean by pronation is that's what most people have. They have this curve in the foot, whereas you might be rolling your foot in a little bit more than the average person, which is what we call pronation. Whereas someone who's generally quite flat-footed is an overpronator. There can be people that walk more on the outside of their foot more naturally. They're called supinators, or they do the action of supination. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. What we're going to start by doing is some really basic soft tissue work with one of the machines. It's just a nice soft tissue vibration machine, and what it's mainly looking to do is kind of ease you into the treatment, just help loosen up a lot of the general muscle tension that you have. This then helps for two reasons. Because you're a bit more relaxed, when we want to do the adjustments to release the pressure on the joints, it means we don't have to really push with too much force. Okay. I know in a lot of chiropractic videos they are a little bit edited, but also they look like they're very much pushing very hard to get these adjustments. And a lot of people do like those noises and sounds. It's very aggressive in clinical. It's not really the thing you want to be doing all the time. So you want to apply as little force as possible to get the release as well. So this is the first machine, aptly named the Thumper. How does that feel, okay?
It feels great.
Like I said, a little bit of a vibration just through the body as well. I'm starting on quite a low setting, so this goes up to about a 5 on the scale. This is about a 1.5 or 2 at the minute. It's just a nice way of, like I said, easing the patient into a treatment as well. So with manual therapy treatments, that can vary between chiropractic, osteopathy, physiotherapy, and even just sports massage therapy. Again, how's that pressure, okay?
Yeah.
Let me know if it's too much and I'll ease off, but I'm just going to pick it up a little bit more then, okay?
No, it's fine.
So we're getting to about a 3 now. Seen anyone else for this problem in the past? Maybe a massage therapist or a physio or anyone else?
No, I had one of the facials I had ended up she did some of the lymph node drainage and
basic soft tissue work.
Yeah, she told me she'd never seen such a tense neck.
Oh, no, okay. I mean, like I said, I did notice that on both sides as well. So yeah, 2 people telling you the same thing now. So what I'm going to do now is some of these spinal adjustments just to release a lot of the pressure that these muscles are pulling on your joints and creating, okay? There's a couple of angles I'm going to be pushing through just to kind of get that kind of release. What you can normally hear when this happens is like a clicking or a popping sound, and that's just the sound of the gas bubbles which have kind of built up within the joint being released or dissolving. Ready? Breathe in, and out for me. Little drop, light push. Good, and relax for me. How was that?
Yeah.
Not as bad as you thought?
Not as bad as I thought, no.
Good. First time I know it's always quite nervous for patients, but actually, if I'm being honest with you, that released nice, easy and smoothly, not much force needed. And again, a lot of that was because, that soft tissue machine did help to release a lot of the pressure. Now that was more in the middle back, sort of between T2 and about T5. Nice way of releasing the pressure here. That helps you already naturally sink the shoulder blades back rather than hiking them up, which is causing these ones to get tight. But the next adjustment I'm going to do is the really key one with you. It's called a CT adjustment, and it will release the pressure much more here where these knots have kind of developed into these muscles. This is where the bulk of the muscle is, and then what happens is the tendons of those muscles are the ones that pull on the neck and create a lot of pressure in the neck. So I'm just going to release through here and here, okay? Again, can be a little bit nervous first time getting this area adjusted, but it will be nice and safe, I promise. Ready? Lift your head for me, and just give your head a little bit of a twist and a turn. Try and relax your head there. Ready? And then when you're ready, other way for me. Nice and relaxed, let you go. How was that side, okay?
Yeah.
Breathe in, and out for me. Good, and relax for me. How was that?
Yeah,
Right.
it feels
Like
nice.
I said, not as bad as it always expect it to be. It is quite tight, so I'm having to apply a bit of force to get into those areas. But no, we're getting quite nice releases, which is good. Great. Listen, when you're ready, take your time. Can I get you to turn over onto your back now for me? So again, we're going to do an adjustment in a few minutes just on the actual neck itself, just to release these set joints. Like I said, there is pressure here at the minute, so we do need to do this adjustment to release the pressure. But actually, like I said, if the majority of the issue is from the upper mid-back and control it there, you're not needing to adjust your neck as much because not as much pressure will ever be building on the neck itself. But yeah, there's a couple of spots like that on there, for example, yeah, which is quite tender and sore.
Yeah, you're right. It was worse on the left actually there.
Like I said, left, I'll explain why again in a little bit more detail, why I think the left is a bit tighter, even though you feel the symptoms more on the right. So it's going to be a nice light adjustment for your neck. You ready? Again, try and relax your head as much as you can, but I've got a nice little technique to help with this. Ready? What I'd like you to do is just wiggle your toes for me. That'll do. And then one more time on the left. Keep wiggling those toes, nice and relaxed. Good. And relax. How was that?
That was fine, yeah.
Good. Like I said, you never want to be doing one of those wrangly head movements that you can find sometimes on these chiropractic videos. It's nice and gentle, nice and soft. Got one more to do if I can, just on the right side, which is a little bit more blocked here. But let's see. If we don't get it, it's not the worst thing in the world. Nice and relaxed. Keep wiggling those toes. That's perfect. That'll do. When you're ready, can I get you to now turn onto this shoulder, facing towards the blue wall? So keep the bottom leg straight and just bend your top knee for me. I'm just going to tuck that there. I'm just going to lift you up from the pelvis now. And now what I'd like to do is just bring this arm across the body, and if you give me this arm, I'm just going to pull you off the elbow. Now what I'm going to ask you to do is hold on to your arms around my arm, nice and tight. Hold on to your elbows. I'm just going to roll you forwards. I promise you won't fall. You're going to hear a couple of clicks from the back and the pelvis, okay? Ready? Breathe in, breathe out. Good. Excellent. When you're ready, turn and face the other way for me. Again, keep your bottom leg straight. Bend this in here. Just going to lift you up from the pelvis slightly. Arm across the body, just off the elbow very slightly. Hold onto your elbows around my arm. Again, just a very light little roll. Ready? And when you're ready, sit back up and face towards the blue wall. So, that's two parts of the treatment. We've loosened up a lot of the general muscle tissue, adjusted some of the joints to get a bit more movement into the joints. Hopefully already you feel looser, lighter, and you feel a bit more mobile in that area as well. And I can already see you sitting a bit better as well. To finish up with you, I'm going to use this machine now, which is called the Theragun. It's a great vibration percussion machine. It's much more powerful than the first one. It really gets into the muscle a little bit better. But again, let me know if it's too much. It does sound a bit like a drill. Ready? How's that again?
That's nice.
Yeah, nice. I mean, like I said, everything you do is supposed to feel nice. But yeah, this one's quite a nice one. It just gets into these muscle knots more effectively. There's a good way and a wrong way to use this. A lot of people, have these devices at home, and what they do is they find a knot or an area like yours, and what they do is essentially they just on that spot, just almost like break it down. But it doesn't work effectively like that. So what you want to do is find an area where you're sensitive, and you want to kind of go along, so kind of be moving it along the length of the muscle fibers. And when you're doing that, you're kind of getting a nice stretch into the muscle, or you want to kind of go across the muscle fibers and you're kind of breaking down into the knots a little bit more. Can you feel the difference in the sensation when I do that?
Yeah.
So this is almost like me stretching this muscle here the wrong way. This is me kind of breaking down the knot in there as well. these muscles in the upper back and shoulders as well. But this is why with a lot of our treatments as well, sometimes we can get female patients ask the other female practitioner because they're a bit nervous about being undressed and things, but actually the vast majority of equipment, as we've seen, we can do while patients are dressed.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's even better because when we're using a lot of these machines, they actually glide better over the fabric and over the skin, for example, as well. So it can be nice for very painful and soft tissue. You know, a lot of patients always ask me, what were you doing before these machines came along? And, you know, a little bit of elbow grease and whatnot. Probably just meant we were more tired at the end of the day than the machines.
Yeah.
When they came to help us out. I'm just going to switch one of the attachments now to a slightly softer one. So this one's quite soft, but it's not quite spongy, but it gets into the muscles quite nicely. There's a few different attachments. This next one we're going to use on your neck is really nice because it's super soft and spongy. Do you mind if I get you to hold your hair up there for me for a second? That's okay. So let me know again if it's too much, but I'm sure you'll find it's quite a nice sensation. How's that?
That's great.
All right. Quite nice because you can just kind of glide over more bony areas like I am now, like the scapula and the shoulder blade. And obviously, like I said, it doesn't feel uncomfortable or painful in any way, does it?
Yeah, it feels very nice.
How was that, okay?
Yeah, great.
Perfect. And relax for me. So, that's the majority of the hands-on treatment done for today's first appointment. So we've loosened up a lot of the muscles, released a lot of the pressure in the joints. What I'm going to do by finishing up the appointment now is going through some hands-off advice, some good stretches.
Okay.
Now with the stretches, it's a nice thing for patients to be doing in between appointments just to carry on a lot of the benefits of the actual hands-on treatment. But also you can use it as a bit of a diagnostic tool, because if you always notice you're doing the stretches at certain days or certain times of the day, like you're always noticing you're stretching more on Tuesdays and Thursday, oh, that's the day you go swimming. You notice there's an issue with the swimming. Maybe you always feel like you're doing the stretches more in the morning. Maybe there's an issue with the way you're sleeping. So they still have like a bit of a diagnostic benefit. Now with you today, there's 3 stretches I'd like to show you for the neck and the upper back, 1 for the mid-back area, okay? So the first ones, we're going to show you on the right side. First thing, arm nice and low into your lower back. Now you're not leaning into it, but you're just trying to depress that shoulder blade very slightly, which is where a lot of these muscles attach to. Then, gently, head down for me, very slightly there. Now, turn the head. Not so you're looking over the shoulder, which you can do fairly easily. Play around with the angles, but there, diagonally. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Bring this hand up for me, over the top of the head, here. Now what I want you to do is use this hand to pull your head forwards in that kind of diagonal direction, almost nose to armpit. Can you feel that nice little stretch on the back of the neck? Like I said, it doesn't have to be a big stretch yet, we can always kind of make it more advanced later, but just a nice way of opening up that muscle. Don't hold the stretch for too long. I would probably recommend only holding the stretch for 6 to 10 seconds. You can do 2 or 3 reps, and then over the course of the day as many times as you need. But yeah, don't actually hold the actual stretch for too long. Then, keep your head in this position, and all you do is you move your hand a bit more onto the side of the head. Now you're pulling a bit more across, a bit more ear to shoulder. And you feel how the stretch is slightly different now.
Yeah.
It's just targeting a slightly different muscle, so more the trapezius muscle, whereas the first one was more levator scapulae. And how does that feel?
That's really nice.
Nice, good. And then the last one, head back into the middle. This one's a little bit more confusing. Tilt the head back slightly. Now you move the hand almost onto the side front of the head. And gently, you just want to lean your head back. What I normally tell patients is ear to the sky. Can you feel that stretch more in these muscles here in the front of the neck now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, 6 to 10 seconds, not too long. If obviously you were feeling any pain here on the left side, you would stop.
Okay.
That'll do. Relax. And then obviously, yeah, you would repeat that on the left side as well, but at the minute you might find you're stretching the right a bit more, knowing that's the tighter side.
Okay.
Happy with that? And then the last stretch for today. Now this stretch is actually primarily for the chest area. So even though that you're going to feel the majority of the stretch here, the secondary benefit you're getting, which you're not necessarily kind of feeling while you're doing the stretch, is it's just helping to kind of squeeze those shoulders and pinching them back. So again, naturally you always feel more comfortable having the shoulders back and working from a much more neutral position, rather than finding yourself in that hunch position too often. So the best way to do this stretch is if you come to a door frame like this, key thing, palm and forearm touching the door frame.
Okay.
I'd also start with roughly fingertips level with your eyes, but you can play around with the angles later. One leg forward, just to take a little bit of pressure off your back, and then with your chest aiming straight into the wall, you just lean forwards. It's not a big push or a stretch, it's that nice steady opening, and like I said, the majority of the stretch will be here. You can then just aim a little bit more into the floor with your chest, just to hit the muscles and the shoulders in a slightly better position. You can then play around with having your arms sort of higher, wider, slightly narrower, just to get a bit more of a range of the stretch. Now, people always ask me, do I need to switch my legs? No, you shouldn't really need to, because you shouldn't be sticking your hip out. If you're thinking about it, it's just taking pressure off your back. I think sometimes people just like the idea of just feeling right to kind of swap over to the other side, which is fine. With this being a bigger muscle group, as opposed to the smaller muscle group stretches where I said only hold it for 6 to 10 seconds, this one, if you want to kind of do 15 to 30 seconds, fine. Bigger muscle groups, I normally tell patients like glutes, hamstring, quads, if you hold it for a little bit more time, it's fine. But a lot of smaller muscle groups that we kind of work on, you don't want to be holding the stretch for too long. You can still get to 30 seconds, but it's better to do it in 6, 10 seconds chunks rather than one steady hold of 30 seconds.
Okay.
So try that for me. So key, like I said, is palm and forearm on the door frame. This door frame might be a little bit big for you actually, but not too bad either.
So eye
Yeah,
height?
that's fine, eye height. One leg forward, just take a bit of pressure off your back, keeping your chest kind of aimed forward, and you just kind of lean into it nice. Can you feel that stretch I'm talking about on the top of the chest? Nice. Hold that stretch, like I said, for a few seconds, and then you can ease off, swap legs if you want to, start playing around with some of the angles as well.
Oh, that feels really nice.
It's a nice one, isn't it? Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, for me, this is a great stretch, not just to be doing short term, but probably a bit more medium and long term. Whenever you found that, even before you get pain, that you just have been sitting for a while, or you notice you've been getting a bit hunched and rounded, it's a nice way of working on things.
Cool.
So, and when you're ready, you can head back inside.
Thank
So again,
you.
this one's a good one if you're someone that's a desk worker, if you have an occupation where you're driving quite often. Again, random example, but if you've got a patient who's breastfeeding and they're in this hunched position, for example, it's like I said, the same action, the same benefit, but you're getting that tightness for a different reason, and that's what we've got to work for you today. That's the end of our first appointment today. So hopefully, like I said, you're feeling looser and lighter and some of those early benefits. So what can sometimes happen with the next day after the appointment? Your body just feels like a little bit sore and achy, a bit like you've had a gym session after a while. Nothing to worry about if that's the case. Anywhere it might be a bit sore, just apply a bit of an ice pack. It normally happens because there's a bit of a lactic acid breakdown from all the soft tissue work we do, and that just gets you feeling a bit sore after the appointment. Normally it happens to most people after the first 1, maybe 2 appointments after that, because there's less tightness of the muscles, so it's less common, but it's nice to warn people because some people get it, some people don't, and you just don't want it to be too much of a shock. Do you have any questions that you'd like to ask for right now?
If I'm going back to work today and using typing as normal, is it?
So what I would suggest is over the next couple of weeks, almost continue as normal. Don't change too much in your routine. So what you're going to be doing are doing the stretches that I've showed you. But like I said, over the next couple of weeks, notice if a routine or a habit builds up with the stretches. If you're definitely noticing you are always doing it more when you've been doing it at the desk, if you're always noticing it more in the mornings after sleeping, random example, like I said, if you're doing it more Tuesday or Thursday, and those are the days, for example, that you go to swimming. Because that will help you to work out potentially what your bad habits are, and then what you can do then is slowly start thinking, okay, I'm obviously doing something wrong there, I need to work on fixing my technique there. Maybe it's adjusting your monitor, maybe it's a case of not carrying a backpack on one shoulder, and obviously, like I said, you get the benefit of obviously doing more good stuff, but more importantly, less of the bad stuff as well. So that's what I would suggest. A couple of weeks of just getting on with the stretches, noticing if a routine develops, and then when we potentially have a follow-up appointment in the future, what we'll be doing is very similar to what we did today in terms of the treatment, loosening up the muscles, adjusting the pressure in the joints. But then what we probably focus on next time a little bit more is less so on loosening up the muscles that were tight and starting to focus more on exercises and starting to strengthen some of the muscles that are a bit maybe underactive and weak with you. Again, helping you to stay in these better positions that we're putting with you for longer. I always tell people no one's perfect. No one sits in a perfect position constantly all day non-stop like this. Everyone eventually will slouch or slump a little bit. But the difference is once you recognize what genuinely a good position is, you recognize that you're slouching much quicker. So you're quite quick at adjusting yourself back into the better position. You don't get stuck in the bad position for too long, which is then when eventually things start tightening up, and that's when you normally start feeling the pain as well.
Okay.
Great. That's all done for us today.
Thank Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Hey Melissa, how have you been?
Good, thank
So,
you.
good couple of weeks since we last saw each other, so today is your first follow-up appointment. First question, after the first appointment, like next day, how did you feel? Was it like a little bit sore and achy from the treatment?
It was, yeah. The afternoon as well, actually. I noticed it.
It's one of those ones where I always want people to feel leaving better, and it's great when you do and people feel more relaxed, but it's because of the way the muscles respond to your treatment, especially with the machines that we use, which is quite normal. But I feel like as long as I've warned my patients, it's not like a huge shock for them, so at least they expect it. Normally it's like a bit of a gym ache, and then it usually settles down within a few days as well. Hopefully that's what you noticed.
Yeah, it felt very similar to doing exercise and things like that, yeah.
Yeah, good. And then usually that eases off.
Yeah.
How have you been with your stretches that we went through in the last session over the last few weeks?
Yeah, I've been trying to do them when I'm at the computer, like sat down at the desk. Just every now and then remind myself to do some stretches, especially when my neck's hurting looking at the computer. It's really...
So with you today, exactly that. Stretches are a great tool, but usually they're a bit of a pain management tool, so that you get tight, you get pain or discomfort, you do your stretches, you feel better, but sometimes you don't want to be stuck in that cycle. We want to break that cycle slightly by starting to show you ways of strengthening your muscles, which keeps you in better positions for longer, so you don't find yourself getting into bad positions and therefore pain. Have you been having any issues with your foot or ankle?
So recently for some reason I'm getting a bit of pain like just on this foot along here. I bought some New Balance, like I did have some before, just because I was worried it's because my shoes were too old.
Can be a factor.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. I run about a lot when I'm trying to catch trains, so maybe I've sprained it or something.
I mean, these are a good pair of shoes, so they look like they're quite supportive in the arches, which is what we're looking for. It might just be, like I said, there's some tension in your actual foot and ankle joint, which we'll work on again during the session today. Do you have any questions for me before we start our appointment today?
I can't think of anything else.
Okay, great. Let's get started.
Sounds great.
Cool. Let's go. Melissa, whenever you're ready, face down for me, laying on your tummy, please. Just relax your shoulders. Let them go. Perfect. Is that comfortable for you?
Yeah.
Excellent. So, yeah, already I can tell your posture does feel better than last time. Still a few areas like here which are a little bit tight, which we'll show you the more advanced stretches of, but definitely a lot less rounded in your upper back and shoulders than you were last time. So that's quite encouraging to see. Now, I'm going to run the first machine over your back, the thumper machine. This one's called the Maxi Pro edition, which is pretty powerful, as I'm sure you can tell from the size of it. It's a nice vibration machine. It's very gentle in a weird way, though it looks quite aggressive. It just gets into the muscles, loosens them up, just helps patients ease into their treatments as well, I find. How's that pressure, okay?
It's good.
So again, just running over some of the muscles in your back, such as your paraspinals, rhomboids, traps. Just turn it up a little bit for you. Still feels okay?
It feels great.
Excellent. It's encouraging to see it's gliding through your back so much better than last time, which is a good sign that the shoulders aren't as rounded, which is nice. So well done you for doing your stretches.
Thank you.
So that's about a 3 power setting out of 5. So roughly a little bit over halfway. As you can probably feel, it does still feel quite nice, but a bit more powerful, right? Uncomfortable or not too bad?
No, it's still really comfortable. can feel like all the tension melting away.
Yeah, which is nice. Now it's the first little adjustment for the upper mid-back, just to release some of the pressure here. Again, just relax your arms, nice and relaxed, therefore. So, when you're ready, breathe in and out for me. Excellent. Quick little thrust. And relax. How was that?
That was nice.
Fantastic. One more time, breathe in for me and out for me. Yeah, a bit of an awkward angle. Nice. And relax. You felt that one there a little bit more, right?
Yeah.
Good release. Didn't actually have to put too much pressure in. We got that nice kind of release into the joints, which is what we're looking for as well. Now the next adjustment, more for the top of the shoulders. Again, similar to last time, just trying to release the pressure point here. It's much better than last time. Like I said, you're not rounding your shoulders as much, but you can still feel how there are little knots, like right where my finger is there.
Oh, yeah.
Lift your head up for me. Nice and relaxed, let your head go. Let it drop onto the table. Just going to place my hands on the shoulder, a little bit of a rotation, and relax on it. Same again this side, nice and relaxed, not bad on this side, and relax on it. Give yourself a second if you need it. How was that?
Yeah, I can really feel the difference on the two sides. Like
That's
how
exactly what I was just going to say to you.
This side was a lot tighter.
Yeah, I was just going to say the exact same thing. For me, it was much more even up than it was last time. But yeah, you can definitely tell how there is more pressure on that left shoulder compared to the right shoulder. But also that's still linked in with what's happening in your lower back and pelvis, because the muscle on the lower right side of your back where I'm poking you here is tighter than the muscle on the lower left side of your back. So these two areas are interconnected, you see.
Oh, okay.
Now the next machine, which is called the Theragun, a bit more powerful, really gets into those knots a little bit more. The movement of the machine is a little bit more different. So whereas the thumper is a bit more of a side-to-side motion, this one, as you can see, kind of goes a bit more in-out, so it usually does get a little bit deeper into the muscle. I think this is more a percussion machine, whereas the first one is considered more of a vibration machine. Is that pressure okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, again, you can just feel as I'm going over the left shoulder blade, there's a bit more sort of knotted resistance.
Yeah, I can feel it much more that side.
And there's less resistance there on the right side. So even through the machine, I kind of get that feedback that there is some more knotting there. So logically, as you said, you would feel that it is tighter. So yeah, that muscle there, which we're going to show you the deeper version of how to stretch a little bit. Excellent. So when you're ready, again, take your time please. Can I turn onto your left shoulder so you can be facing towards the blue wall? Take your time as you turn onto your left shoulder. Bend this top knee for me. Now I'm just going to bring you up slightly from the pelvis. Just off your elbow slightly. What I would like you to do now, hold on to your elbows around my arm, nice and tight, perfect. Now I'm just going to roll you forwards, okay? Again, maybe a little bit more than I did last time, but I promise you won't fall.
Okay.
Good. Excellent. And when you're ready, other way and facing towards the white wall now for you. How was that release?
Oh, it's really nice.
Good. So the release needed to come up a little bit higher, just almost underneath the rib cage, and then to do that, that's why I just kind of rolled your body weight a little bit more. This side isn't as tight, so I wouldn't expect. There'll still be a few clicks, but probably a lot less. A lot of it might even release almost as I'm turning you.
Okay.
So same positioning, bottom leg straight, and then just bend this knee here, off the arm and the elbow. Hold onto your arms again, and onto your back. You see the difference?
Yeah, I didn't really.
Just the one, pretty much as soon as I turned you, a lot less pressure on that side, which is good, but we also want to kind of obviously even that up as well, you see. When you're ready, onto your back, please. Is that comfortable how you're lying now?
Yeah.
Good. Some people notice that when they lay with their legs straight, it gives them back pain, in which case they normally just tell them to bend their knees. So again, much better on your neck than it was last time. The issue is still a bit tight from the upper back and shoulder, and it was explaining last time how that was creating a lot more pressure on the actual neck. Some tension on your neck, but again, I can feel how it's better. Ready? Just a small adjustment through the neck, especially that point there on the left, which is a little bit tender. Again, let the weight of the head relax on me as much as you feel comfortable. Yeah, there we go. Just wiggle your toes and move this. That'll do. And then a little one here. Breathe in, breathe out. Relax your head as much as you feel. That'll do. And just going to give you a very light pull. It's always hard to relax, I know, when someone's just got a hold of your neck, but you did pretty well. Just want to do one more adjustment if I can on this left side for you, if that's okay, okay? Again, I don't want to have to push hard, so the more you relax, the easier it is. Happy with that? There we go. Was that okay?
Yeah.
That was the main one because, like I said, that's the one that's
Yeah.
the most blocked, and it did require a little bit more of a push, but we got it to go.
You can really feel it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong with the neck, that's what I'm always kind of worried about a little bit more as well.
Oh, it feels lighter already.
No, I'm glad to hear that. A couple of different adjustments from the last time. One's for your pubis bone, which I'll explain about more in a second. The second one's for your foot. So like you were mentioning, you were getting a bit of discomfort and tightness coming into this part of the foot here, which is just one of the joints here, which is a little bit locked. So with the adjustment, what I'm going to look to do, just release right through the base of the foot. You just relax as much as you feel comfortable. I'm just going to grab hold of the foot and just a very light push. There we go. Did you feel that small release on that one?
Yeah, I did.
Now this one, no, I think it's already released actually. That's fine. How was that?
Yeah, I thought it was
Just a little bit more of a pull on that one. I mean, you can really feel how the bone is much higher up on this foot than this foot. And you can really feel how this foot is generally a lot more stiff.
Yeah,
than
that's
that
the one
one.
that's been hurting.
Yeah,
So.
it would make sense. Just a little bit more of a stretch through this foot. I'm just going to try that just to make sure we got all of it, okay? One more time. Relax your foot for me again. Breathe in, breathe out. Relax the foot, Melissa. Let it go. There we go. That's fine. Perfect. Now the next one, what I'd like you to do, just bend your knees for me. What I ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to push your knees towards each other. Against my resistance, I'm going to stop you from doing it. What you might feel is a small release just in your pubis bone.
Okay.
Open the legs in slightly. Just a little bit wider. There we go. Now, push in as much as you feel comfortable. A little bit more if you can. That's it, that's it. One more time, push in. That's fine, relax. Did you feel how there's a little bit of pressure just around the top of the pubis bone? There's a joint there, which just gets a bit locked with a lot of patients. And as a result, it can just cause sometimes tightness into that kind of groin area. So that joint just here, and that's what we were looking to release. Fine, muscles are a bit tight, not a big deal. We'll try and release that maybe another time. When you're ready, sit back up, please. The next thing we're going to show you is the stretch. Stand up, stand here, face the other way. So for the stretch, it's actually for the lower back, but indirectly I think it will also start benefiting more on the left shoulder. The version I showed you last time, we had this arm up and above, just on the top of the head and resting there, nice. Bring this hand up onto the opposite arm and elbow. Don't pull on your elbow. See how you want to keep your pelvis nice and strong? Good. Now the basic version involves you dropping your body weight to the left, keep going, sticking your hip out to the right. Can you feel a bit of a stretch when you get into here?
Yeah.
6 to 10 seconds, back into the middle, and then when you're ready, swap over to the other side for me. Good. Excellent. Good technique. Can you feel the stretch on the left?
Yeah.
It's not as much as on the right, is it?
No, not
So
at all.
again, what I would want you to do is one more time, stretch the right side only. And then keep up with the stretches, do both sides, but focus a little bit more attention on the side that is a little bit tighter, which obviously with you is the right. Happy with that?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So we've gone through your stretches and the more advanced version of the stretches, but what I'm going to show you now are some simple posture strengthening exercises. It's trying to engage certain muscles that sometimes with patients become a bit inactive, a bit weak, and as a result it lets the other muscles dominate, and then that's what causes a lot of tightness. So these are some very simple exercises, one for your upper back and shoulder, one for your core pelvic floor to start adding in more stability, and then holding your better posture for longer periods.
Okay.
So the first exercise, when you're ready, can I get you to lay on your back so you're looking up to the ceiling? Now I am going to trick you a little bit for this first one. Are you familiar with the exercise known as glute bridge or a pelvic thrust?
No.
There are loads of different names. So I'll show you what most people do with a glute bridge or a pelvic thrust. Bend your knees for me, both sides. Nice positioning, heel around this sort of angle here. And when most people get into this position, what they'll do, arms across the body or across the chest, wherever you feel comfortable, and they kind of lift their bum off the table. So do that for me now. Thrusting up. Good. Nothing wrong with this. It's a nice exercise, strengthens a few different muscles. Good. Relax. However, as good as that is, in most patients who generally have poor, long jobs of sitting and generally do find a lot more pain in their lower back, the muscle group they're not engaging is more the pelvic floor muscle groups. And the way you switch those muscles on better when you do this exercise is like this. So before you thrust up, what I want you to do is roll your hips and pelvis, so you're almost flattening your back into the table for me. That's it. Now lift up for me in that position. You probably won't get up as much, and as you can see, it's a lot more difficult, right? Yeah. So this is, again, showing how you're a little bit weaker in those pelvic floor muscles, and those are technically the ones you want to work better on strengthening and engaging to keep your back in a much stronger, balanced position. You'd think that small tweak would make it more difficult, but it does, right?
Yeah, it's so difficult.
Good, that'll do. And relax. So when you're doing these exercises, I don't want it to be a repetition exercise. I like more stability holds. So when you're in the good position, hold it 5-10 seconds if all that's what you can do, and then slowly build it up so maybe you can eventually hold it for 20 or 30 seconds.
Okay.
Yoga, Pilates coaches, they'll be again showing differences, and I'm not saying the other version was wrong. I'm just saying that for a lot of people that we see in clinic, that version is better for them and their lifestyle. But both versions are good. But for you, for example, as you saw, maybe adding that into your routine would be better for you.
Okay.
Happy with that?
Yeah,
There's always ways of making it more difficult and doing different muscle groups, but to begin with, a nice one. Just one little tip with you, not bad. Can you see how your knees, again, just want to fall in a little bit?
Yeah.
So just always keep a little bit of a gap just in between the legs like this. You want to make sure the 3 balls of the feet are nicely positioned on the table, and you don't have that little tendency of letting those muscles roll in.
Okay.
Happy with that?
Thank
Excellent.
you, yeah.
Sit back up. So I'm going to set next exercise. This is focusing much more on the upper mid-back and the shoulder area as well. So what you want to do is you want to get a resistance band like this. They're not particularly expensive. You can find a pack of these on Amazon or other websites for usually about £5 to £10. You normally want a good quality pair though, to be honest with you. So yeah, different resistances. So we're actually going with quite a firm one today. So if you find this too much, let me know. I didn't have any softer ones, sorry.
Okay.
Find somewhere where you can hook it on. And there's loads of ways and variations of doing these exercises, I know. Now, I'm not going to call it a mistake, but in the gym, or with a lot of us, we get very tight through certain muscles, such as our traps and levator scap, which kind of runs through here. All that rounding on the desk, being on our phone. So where we actually are much more inactive in our muscle group are our rhomboids and our lats, which are a little bit more here and here. So those are the muscles you want to engage better with this exercise. So you want to be nice and perpendicular with the resistance band. Give it a nice hold grip. Careful of your wrist, because sometimes people will grip it in bad ways. So you just want to keep a relatively neutral wrist. So even a lot of gym equipment, it's designed for you to pull towards the chest, which then over-engages these muscles, which have got tight through a lot of patients through the day. It's not a bad thing to engage those muscles if you're a bodybuilder or if you're actually a professional rower. Yeah, your technique would be rowing much more towards this area. However, for most people in desk posture and working on it, what you want to do is you want to pull much more towards your belly button or even a little bit lower into the hip. So elbows fairly close to the body, nice neutral grip, and just pull back. And you just want to feel that nice squeeze in between your shoulder blades, much more in the mid-back rather than the upper back. Again, once you're in that position, it's not a repetition exercise. You want to hold it as much as you feel comfortable, 10-15 seconds. If you can do more, and then relax. Then, slightly more difficult, the same thing, keeping the arms low, but with a bit of a wider grip, and then you're pulling back. Now this is engaging more your lats. A little bit more difficult, but fine. You can do it with a bent arm or a straight arm, that's up to you. It just depends on if you're trying to work maybe your tricep muscle a bit more or your shoulders. So if people have weaker shoulders, then they want to engage more of their tricep and vice versa. So just to recap, pulling much more down, but low, and then wide. Great, your turn.
Okay.
So have a seat here for me, and then hold on to the hands. Like I said, these are fairly heavy, so don't hold for too long. If it feels uncomfortable, let me know. You comfortable?
Yeah. Like
So,
this, right? Do
even
my feet go flat on the floor?
I mean, if you can do ideally in a good setup, yeah, but it's not essential. But again, even when you're doing this exercise, remember to keep that nice tuck in your pelvis. Now, as much like you said, nice and straight on, that's good. So what I want you to do first is technically the wrong thing. I want you to pull this band and pull it more towards your chest area. Good. Can you feel how these muscles are all tensing and kind of causing you to lift up? That'll do. Relax. Now, relax. Now pull much more lower into the hip, into the belly button. Good. Didn't raise through here, and can you feel that engagement much more through the middle back?
Yeah.
Fantastic. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Great. That was good. I know this is a pretty heavy band, so like I said, with a lighter one, you would be able to hold it more comfortably for longer. That was great. Next version is a bit more difficult, so keep the pull low, but go much wider. Good. Can you feel the engagement coming much more from your lats here now?
Yeah.
That's good. And relax for me. Challenging, right?
Yeah.
But strengthening exercises are meant to be, so that's great.
The first one felt really nice though.
That's the one pulling to the chest, you mean?
This one, yeah.
Okay, technically.
No, sorry, I mean, the first one is in, not the outwards one, this one here.
So those are more the muscles you want to work. And like I said, there's loads of variation of these kind of exercises. This is just the one I find easiest to show patients and kind of get them into a routine of doing. But even if you're someone that you shouldn't be, is quite lazy and can't even get up, there are other bands like this, even when you're at your desk. And you can just get like a very similar benefit where you're just trying to get that little bit more of a squeeze in between your shoulder blades, getting them to engage a little bit better, and then you haven't even left your desk, but really you want you to leave your desk. Try that one for me. So just a little bit.
In and out.
Yeah, and then elbows by your side and just push out. It's strong.
You made it look so easy.
That's good. Fair enough, that'll do. But you can see the point we're trying to make. You just want to do, even if it's not a big movement, it's just getting those muscles to fire up and engage a little bit better. But with all due respect, that's the point. You are weak in these muscles. That's why you want to start building more strength in them. They will help to keep you in better positions, and then as a result, you won't find yourself possibly needing to do your stretches as much because you're not going to be feeling as much pain and tension.
That'd be great.
Happy with that?
Yeah.
Excellent. Melissa, we're all done for today, and you can put your shoes back on for me.
Thank you so much.
Hey Melissa, welcome back again. How are you doing?
Good, thank you.
Good, so back again as they say. How have you been over the last couple of months since we last saw each other?
Yeah, doing pretty good.
Good. So last time you were here, the first appointment we ran through a lot of your stretches. Second time you came in we showed you more like the posture exercise to kind of get into a nice routine of doing. And then obviously the main goal was that you find that right balance for your lifestyle of doing the stretches when sometimes things tighten up, but then more importantly doing these exercises to kind of keep your posture in better positions. And looking at you now, it does seem like you're making a good conscious effort as always, which is great. So with our appointment today, very, very similar to what we've done in the 2 sessions prior. Some soft tissue work, looking to loosen up a lot of the key muscles that are a bit tight, working on releasing the pressure in the joints. At this stage, what I normally say to my patients when we're doing the adjustments is generally you want to hear a lot less clicks and pops because there should be less pressure building on the joints. But where you might get those clicks and pops, they're usually easier to get because the muscles aren't as tight. The other big thing I judge good sessions on at this point is symmetry. Sometimes it doesn't matter if there is pressure that has built up in the joints because depending on what you've been doing, that is normal. But what you want to see is that if the right side released a fair bit, so should the left side. You don't want there to be a lot of cracking and release on one side and then almost none on the other, because that can be a sign that you're still obviously not quite right with your posture and that you are definitely putting the stress much more through one side of your body than the other, which is not ideal. Whenever we stress our body, we ideally want it to be as even as possible. In some situations, like, let's say a tennis player, it would make sense why one side would be tense, but for most of us that do, desk and office-based jobs, you wouldn't really expect one side to get massively overworked. The best example is that there will be a little bit of a discrepancy depending on which side you use the mouse, but that's a relatively small thing. But again, stretches and exercises to help. The other thing we're going to do today that is slightly different to the prior sessions is we're going to introduce some cupping therapy, if you're familiar with that, into the session today, or to give it its more official name, myofascial decompression, which is a really fancy term, and we can break it down later what each part means. But basically, it's another form of soft tissue, looking to loosen up again a lot of the fascia tissue, skin tissue, muscles as well, to loosen them up. Again, improve your overall kind of health by loosening up the muscles. Happy with that?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Any questions?
Not at the moment, no.
Let's get started with some treatment.
Thank you.
So, Melissa, with you today, like I said, what part of the new treatment is going to be cupping? So with cupping, we use these sort of like air cups that are created now, which are quite modern. So these are made of plastic, but you can get some that are made of glass. And essentially, you have this little vacuum, it fits into the cup, and then you apply a bit of a pressure onto the arm. It just gives it a bit of a suction through the hand. You then leave the cups on normally for a little while on the body, applying some suction, and this gives a lift to some of the skin, some of the connective tissue, as you can see. And as you can see, it's just starting to go a little bit red in there because it's just drawing some blood flow into the area. So some injuries where they does need a bit more blood flow going in can be a nice way of getting that to happen as well. So there's 2 types of cupping one we're doing. One is static, one is dynamic. Static is essentially like I did there, where I just leave the cup in place. The second one, I'll be putting some cream down, and when I put the cream down, I will be applying the cup, and then we'll be actually moving the cup up and down the area. And like I said, it just kind of feels like a bit like a massage. Some people feel it feels quite warm as it kind of brings the blood flow into the area, and just giving the connective tissue a nice little stretch.
Okay.
There are other types of cupping, for example, which I mentioned, which is like wet cupping. Now, in wet cupping, what would happen is that a little bit of an acupuncture is used, and it just kind of puts a little bit of a cut into the area, and then the cup kind of draws the blood out. There's a lot of ancient Eastern and Middle Eastern practices that kind of still apply it. I think it's called hijama therapy, and as a result, it's supposed to be about detoxing and purifying the blood. It's not something we'll be doing here for you today, but in the future, if you want to experiment with that a bit more, you're more than welcome to as well. This therapy has become very popular, more so in the last 10-15 years, although it's been around for 2,000-3,000 years. I think it's become quite visible because of swimmers. Forgotten his name, Michael Phelps. It's quite common with a lot of boxers, for example, currently as well, and even for beauty treatments as well. I've seen it used on people like Gwyneth Paltrow and Jennifer Aniston, maybe to help with a cellulite treatment as well. So all quite interesting how it can run as well.
Yeah. Is it only used like on the body, or is there like a facial version that?
I think there is a facial, because there can be certain cups that are different sizes and shapes. So a lot of the times I will use it mostly myself for back and neck tightness and injuries. It can also work well for people if you have the smaller cup, which can be used on the elbows and arms for people that get tennis elbow and those kind of injuries as well, to be honest with you as well. So yeah, a nice mix of a few different types. I was just looking for that. So obviously I use the glass ones, and I mentioned there are different types. There's some silicone ones as well, different types. They can be used on different parts of the body. This would obviously just be and just creates that suction. Maybe not as deep as the air one, but again, more for facial areas. Can be quite nice as well. Very popular, I think, for cellulite treatment with the dynamic one, the one where you're moving it around. Because again, it kind of just lifts up a lot of that dead skin cell and has that beauty edge to it as well. So 2 for 1 basically, which would be great.
I think what you mentioned earlier was really interesting as well, where technically you could try it on yourself compared to some like trying acupuncture on yourself is quite dangerous, but cupping, I suppose, is...
Cupping is quite gentle. I mean, like I said, you could start with a simpler silicone cup, not too much pressure, and then as you get a bit more used to it, if you wanted to use an air cup, that's fine. So yeah, like I said, for tennis elbow, forearm discomfort, wrist pain is an issue, chest would be quite an area, to that upper back and shoulder if you can reach. Leg injuries is very common as well. Obviously, back can be a bit more difficult unless you're very flexible, but like I said, on the whole, you should be able to find that you can get into most places that you would need to on your own, but obviously having a second pair of hands is always quite ideal as well. So that's cupping, and like I said, we'll incorporate that into your treatment today as well. Ready to get started?
Yeah.
Let's go. When you're ready, can you lie face down to the table for me, please?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Take your time. Is that comfortable for you?
Yep.
Relaxed? Everything feels okay in your neck?
Yep.
I mean, again, I always assess my patients sometimes visually and compared to what I've seen with them in the past. So it does feel like your posture is definitely improving. Much more naturally, kind of less curved in the lower back, less of that exaggerated lordosis, and much more natural kyphosis rounding in your upper back. A little bit tight on the shoulders, so just let the shoulder relax, 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 relax. There we go. And you're kind of laying nicely in the middle of the table as well, which is always a good sign as well. So like I said, just visually you can kind of see those improvements, which is nice. Now I'm just going to start running my machine over the back straight away, okay? Again, let me know if the pressure is too much. We'll start with quite a light setting and then just sort of ease up. Again, this is always a nice way of just starting treatments, just a way of easing up a lot of the tension of the muscles basically as well, just to kind of, like I said, ease you into a treatment straight away. I mean, normally by the second or third appointment, because you've actually had the first 2 appointments, because generally patients are a bit more comfortable and relaxed, everything can adjust much easier and much quicker, but I always find it's still worthwhile just doing a bit of soft tissue with patients to ease them in, especially after maybe a busy, tiring, hectic day, right? Is that pressure okay?
It's great.
Excellent. So again, with this muscle running over your paraspinal, with this machine running over your paraspinal muscles, nice and easy vibration. And again, I always judge how much force I'm having to kind of push in and how kind of smoothly it's gliding over the back. And again, compared to your prior appointments, definitely a lot smoother the way it kind of just glides over these muscles, which is quite nice. Whereas sometimes when people are quite tense, I'm almost having to use 2 hands to kind of even keep the machine balanced. You can't see, but I'm actually just using 1 hand now. Just because, like I said, it's a lot easier. And if I wanted to, we would just leave the machine there. Go on a little break. just going to go into your hip and glute area. Again, is that pressure okay?
Yeah, it's great.
Perfect. So this is on a level 2. Usually with your appointments thus far, we've kind of kept it between a 2 and a 3. So I'm going to turn it up to a 4 now, okay?
Okay.
Which isn't full power, but not too far away. How is that? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Can you feel it? So you're getting in there a little bit more.
Mm.
Okay, I've actually lied to you. Not quite 4. That was more of a 3.5. But as you can feel, it does carry quite a bit of power, doesn't it? But again, hopefully you can feel it, but it's comfortable.
Yeah.
Just while we're getting into these muscles that little bit deeper. If you want to carry on talking, I'm sure you'll have a very shaky voice now as well. How was that, Mr. Okay?
Yeah, it feels really nice.
So what we're going to do now, a little bit different to what we've been doing prior, is a little bit of a myofascial decompression, better known as cupping.
Okay.
So what I'm going to ask you to do in a second is just lift up your jumper and t-shirt just so I can see a small section of your lower back, if that's okay. Take your time, just roll your jumper up for me. So with cupping, there's loads of different types of cupping. Dry cupping, wet cupping, but with you today we're primarily sticking to dry cupping. Dry cupping basically doesn't involve any blood. We'll talk more about which ones do involve blood a little bit later in the appointment if you are interested. So the first type of cupping that we basically do is you find an area where the muscles can be quite tense and tight, and essentially what you're doing in that area is giving the tissues a nice big stretch. So this area here, there's a little bit of muscular tightness if you can feel that.
Yeah.
So I'm just using this cup, which is like a plastic cup, and then this device, which is basically like a little suction device, and it just provides a little bit of a lift to the skin. You ready?
Yeah.
So there's 1 pump and 2. And you probably just felt that little bit of a stretch on the skin, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then you can kind of see there's nice little dome shape. And it's also kind of drawing the blood flow into that area. So again, sometimes after cupping, it can leave a little bit of a circular red mark. Some people may have seen these famously on sort of certain athletes. Michael Phelps is a very, very big advocate, for example, of cupping. And again, it helps with injuries and obviously with a lot of tissue damage and getting blood flow into certain parts of the body a bit better. So this is called static cupping, where essentially you just leave the cup in the area for a few minutes, and obviously, like I said, you would put it on maybe a few different areas if you need to, but for demonstration, we're just doing the one here. I mean, how does that feel?
It feels fine, yeah, it doesn't hurt at all.
Some people mention it can feel quite warming as well, like I said as well, which can be quite nice.
Yeah, I guess because of the blood flow, like... Yeah.
Gently kind of getting into that area as well.
Mm.
So I will pop one on the other side, just to create a bit of symmetry as well. Ready?
Yeah.
So again, not quite on the spine, it's just to the side of the spine. And it's just where more the muscle tissue is. Again, a little bit of a traction lift there. Again, how does that feel?
Yeah.
I've seen some very interesting design cups where people sometimes want it, and they've been designed as almost like dragon horns and things, and they run all the way down the spine and they look pretty impressive, but we're just sticking to the tried and tested cup method here. Sometimes in sort of ancient times, what they used to do before these devices were made, they would have sometimes used fire to create the suction. So the kind of inside of a cup would be created with fire, and you can even do it with a mug, essentially, if you needed to. And then that fire pressure, I'm not sure on the physics here, creates a pressure difference, and you can just put it on the skin, and that would create the traction that we're looking for, similar to what we do with the air pumps as well.
Oh, wow.
So how does that feel?
Yeah, it feels
Good.
fine.
So I'm just going to release the first cup. A little pss of air if you heard it.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's just left a little bit of a light red mark, which shouldn't even last more than a couple of days at max. Again, some people can leave their cups on for much longer. We're not really doing that with you today. Just going to release the right one now too. How was that?
Yeah, I can feel it more on the right, actually.
Interesting, okay. So what I'm going to demonstrate now is cupping, but dynamic cupping. So this is essentially where you put some cream or some lubricant down, and then actually you don't leave the cup in one place, but you just move it and glide it around a different area. Again, giving more of a lift to the fascia and the connective tissue, giving everything a nice little stretch. So I'm just going to apply some cream to your lower back, if that's okay. Cold, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Trying to avoid your clothes as much as I can. How does that feel? So the best thing I'd say about this is it's not painful. No one ever really describes it as painful unless you apply too much suction, in which case I'll ease off. But normally people say it gives you quite a warming feeling, as it's kind of like I said, just bringing more blood flow into that area. How's that, Melissa? Okay?
Yeah.
Good. So we'll just do a light one with this one. Can you feel that pump there?
Yeah.
That suction. So then, as I mentioned, once it's on, just a very simple gliding. Like I said, I'm sure you can feel that little bit of a pull on the skin, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, not too bad there. It's a little bit better now where the cream is. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels like a massage.
It's basically what it is. Some people will call it a cupping massage. Sometimes what happens with cupping, what we can do is, with massage, we get focus poking in and pushing in and pushing in. Sometimes it's not always in that we need to push. Sometimes it needs a bit of a stretch. So myofascia is like a connective tissue, and it basically houses your muscles. Yeah, it's a little bit more sensitive on the right there, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then, like I said, sometimes people aren't actually necessarily tight in their muscles. They're more tight in their myofascia. And the way myofascia is released is sometimes, like I said, through cupping therapy, soft tissue work. Foam rolling is another common one as well. How did that feel, okay?
Yeah, it felt really nice, actually.
It's a strange sensation, but yeah, hopefully, like I said, quite therapeutic. But again, it's just another way of just releasing a lot of the pressure in the muscles, joints, and the myofascia. Loosens up the back so that when we do your adjustments as we're doing now, again, everything should release nice and easily. Just going to put your jumper back down.
Thank you.
Great. Now, I'm going to do the first adjustment for the upper back and shoulders. Ready?
Yeah.
So, what I'd like you to do, Melissa, as mentioned earlier, breathe in and out for me. Perfect. One more. Nice. Next one. Breathe in and out. Good. Nice and relax for me. And then just on the top of the shoulders. So again, nice even release, not much force needed to get those adjustments perfect. I can feel again there's a little bit of a knot there on that left shoulder. Let's lift your head up. Nice and relaxed. Let your head relax to the side. Try and let your head relax a little bit more for me. Good. Ready? There. And then when you're ready, this side as well. Again, nice and easy. Good. So could you feel that symmetry there? We got that one release on the left, and we pretty much got that same one release on the right side. Not too much pressure needed applied to get the releases as well. So a good sign that, yeah, there is a little bit of pressure, easy to release, but that you generally are putting that pressure both sides of your body, which is great. Listen, when you're ready, onto your left shoulder, take your time as you turn to your left shoulder for me. Now keep your bottom leg straight, bend this top knee, that's perfect. I'm just going to hike you up from your pelvis slightly. Just going to get you off the end of the elbow. I'm going to ask you to hold onto your arms around my arm nice and tight. I'm just going to roll you forwards very gently. Breathe in for me, Lisa. And out for me. Good. And that's it. And then face the other way, towards the right. Again, it's more than decent release there. There was some pressure in the joints, but as you saw, didn't need much force. So now we want to see how this side releases. Again, it won't be exactly the same amount, but roughly the same amount of force applied to get the same amount of release. The worst thing that could happen now is you get no clicks on this side, but I definitely know there will be a few.
Okay.
The reason being, like I mentioned, that shows that you're compensating and actually putting more pressure on that one part of your body than anywhere else. Hold on to your arms. Just going to give you that nice little roll forwards. And then when you release into your back for me. How was that?
Very nice, yeah.
Good.
Something about it feels easier than last time. I guess I'm less scared as well.
100%. This is what I was mentioning to you earlier. Now that you've had a couple of appointments, you're a bit more used to me. You've obviously had the benefit of the other appointments. And in between, you've been probably looking at getting rid of some of your bad habits, sitting better, carrying things less heavy on one side, and doing the stretches. Can you lift your head up for me, please? Thank you very much. And just relax the weight of the head for me. Relax the head as much as you feel comfortable. That's perfect. So again, not bad, but just a couple of tender spots that I can again feel. So normally before we ever do an adjustment, again, we always kind of assess what the range of motion is like on the neck as well. Just adding in what we call mobilizations, looking for any tender spots that might need to be adjusted as well. Again, there's not many, which is good, but there is one there on the right, definitely. And then maybe that one on the left also, but definitely that one on the right. So ready?
Yeah.
Just relax the weight of the head for me. Just going to give your head a very light twist and turn. Now, little push. That'll do. And when you're ready, this side as well. Try and let the head go. Wiggle your toes. Perfect. So the left one released much easier than the right one. Because again, like I said, that side isn't as tight. I might just try the right one more time. Again, nice and relaxed. The more you relax, the easier it always is. Wiggle those toes. That'll do. Sit back up and face towards the blue wall for me. Take your time to get back up.
Look at how much easier it is on the left.
Yeah, because like I said, generally there is less muscle tightness. Like I said, there was one point there that I knew was going to be released. The right was a little bit tighter, but we know that from the shoulder anyway.
Yeah.
Being right-handed, right side dominant makes sense. You don't always have to have the click to kind of get the improvement. It does feel quite satisfying, obviously, when you hear the click straight away. But like I mentioned, the more you release the muscle pressure, that will happen naturally as well. So I'm just going to finish up with a little bit more work into the upper back and shoulders. So again, so as soon as you've stood up, pretty much not touched you. But as soon as you've set up, first of all, key sign, you're sitting right over your center of gravity, that's gate. You have that natural lordosis in your spine where you're not curving your lower back too much inwards or you're not rounding it too much. Nice and level through the shoulders and the mid-back. So again, more instinctively, you're sitting in that more natural position. And then the challenge with each patient is then once we've kind of got you feeling more comfortable that you know what the right position is, generally sitting in that position for a decent amount of time. No one's perfect, no one's going to sit in this position for hours and hours, but obviously comfortably for at least 30, maybe 40 minutes. But then what will happen is you will probably start slouching a little bit. But the difference is now that your body's more aware of what a good position is, it recognizes you're slouching quicker and then you correct yourself quicker and not overcorrecting yourself. Sometimes what happens with a lot of patients is they get into a bad position for too long, then they notice it, and then they try and overcorrect the posture, which is actually a bad position, can't hold that for too long, and they almost go from one extreme position to another, whereas the position you're sitting in now, I'm always cautious of using the word perfect, but I'd say it's close to perfect.
Yeah.
I'm just going to use the next machine again just to top up a little bit of the muscle tension, especially just on the right side of the top shoulder. How's that pressure, okay?
Yeah.
Again, even with the machines, you're probably noticing it's generally more comfortable. They generally glide through your back much smoother than they have done in the past, which is encouraging. So what I always like to do when I see my patients after 3 or 4 appointments is in my head, I almost try and make it out like I'm meeting you now for the first time. And I think to myself, if I was now doing my assessment of it as a new patient with you right now, would I still diagnose you with the issues I diagnosed you with when you first came in? And what I would say is, yes, you still have a very minor functional scoliosis, but the anterior pelvic tilt and the upper and lower cross syndromes issues we discussed in our first session, they are substantially better.
That's good.
There's no permanent fix to a certain degree. You would always obviously have to do the stretches and the exercises to maintain that, but how regularly you need to be maintaining it maybe isn't more than a couple of times a week, you see.
Oh, wow.
Again, just a little bit tender through here, but just let me know if it's too much. Do you mind moving your head back for me now? Just going to use this slightly softer attachment, whereas the other one has a little bit more give in it, a little bit more solid. This one, as you can see, is a lot more soft and foamy, which is nice because then we can get into slightly more bony areas, just like the top of the neck, top of the shoulder as well, for example. Let me know if it's uncomfortable, but it should be fine. How's that?
Yeah, it's nice.
And if you can move your head to the other side for me, thank you very much. So right now I'm almost on your shoulder blade itself, which is quite a bony area. But obviously, I imagine this doesn't feel uncomfortable with you. With the foam top, it just glides kind of through all these areas as well, which is nice. And that's right on the top of the shoulder as well. And obviously, you can even go directly over the spine if you need to. So, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah, it's so relaxed. Yeah, I don't know how much, so like when my posture is really good, I still feel like, I don't know, the core is really weak. Does that make a difference?
Because what you're still trying to do is overcorrect yourself. I just saw it there. You were in the perfect position the whole time we've been talking. This is neutral. This was good. But a couple of times, what you just did there, and you can look back on the video, is you did this. You probably still feel like your chest needs to be a bit more open, a bit further back, which it could be, and that's the exercise that you need to be doing a bit more. But what you need to do is not move that core and pelvic floor. Bring the shoulders back, but what you're actually doing is you're opening up your chest, but then you're rounding your lower back more, and then kind of over-curving there, you see. The position you were definitely in when we were working, close to perfect.
It's the one that actually feels like quite more natural.
You would be in this position comfortably for 40 minutes. If you were kind of like a bit more out, shoulders back, that would probably be a position you want to adopt more, let's say, when you're doing a gym workout, where you're a bit more braced, a bit more engaged when you're picking a heavy weight. But essentially, for sitting at a desk, like I said, that was close to perfect. Sometimes it's hard fighting against our natural instinct to maybe change the position slightly. But like I said, all the natural curves in your spine, that natural lordosis, less of a kyphosis, and quite a natural lordosis in the neck, nice, encouraging, well aligned. Maybe again it's slightly different because you're now sitting on my table without really any back support. So yeah, it might not that translate into the desk that you have at work, but obviously, if, like I said, you can assume that you're in the right position. So whatever you can do to help yourself stay in the right position by adding in a cushion or adding in a raise on your desk, you should do. But you now don't need to question it. You are in a good position. It's how can you change and edit things around your desk to help you stay in this position more comfortably for longer.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Well done. Melissa, during most of your appointment, you probably heard me mention spinal curves, lordosis, kyphosis. So this is obviously the model of the human spine. Now, we naturally have curves in our spine. No one's spine is completely bolt upright. So the neck has this natural, what we call cervical lordosis, as does the lower back, which means it curves in, whereas the upper back, mid-back, thoracic spine curves outwards a little bit as well. What happens with bad posture is these curves kind of sometimes either become too flat or exaggeratedly rounded. But as I was mentioning to you, especially at the end of the appointment just now when I was talking about how you were sitting, most of those curves were in the position you'd ideally want to see them. Right. Instinctively, you were kind of trying to bring your shoulders back a bit more, which I don't think is an issue. But the way you were doing it, you were actually kind of sticking out your chest a bit too much and then exaggerating the curve in the back, which then over time would put more pressure, as you can see that kind of cramping into the joints. So that's what can happen with an anterior pelvic tilt. Again, unfortunately, with a lot of us looking down on our phones, a lot of us are starting to develop much more kyphotic necks. Text neck is what that's nicknamed as. Right. But again, right now you're keeping a much more natural curve in your neck, which is nice to see. So now the goal with the stretches and the exercises is maintaining those spinal curves into that nice neutral position for, significant periods of time, which would be good. But like I said, we've got you to a point where I think your posture is significantly better, probably in the 90% percentile, so that's great. If obviously you want to improve it more, there are always ways, but at that point, it does take a lot more effort to kind of get that extra percent or two. Okay. Whereas, like I said, it's more about maintaining it and definitely not letting things drop. Right. It's why a lot of athletes also include chiropractic care into their treatment quite regularly. They're not in pain. They're the kind of people that are just trying to get any edge that they can, that 0.5%, 1% to their game, to really keep them at their best for as long as they can in their careers as well. Yeah. So we can benefit people who are in pain and not in pain. Again, depends on what the end goal is with chiropractic treatment.
Right. Yeah, I always imagined it straight for some reason, but it's not.
I mean, essentially, this part you want spine. You don't want the spine kind of dropping into the side like this or this. That's what scoliosis is. But most of the time, on a side curve, in, slightly out, slightly in. But what we would define that as a neutral spine.
Yeah. Yeah, instead of just sitting like a plank, I guess.
Like I said, again, so this example, what you're doing now, like it looks like my posture's good because my shoulders are back and I'm really kind of got my chest out. But if you kind of felt what my lower back was, I'm really exaggerating there. cramping up a lot of the joints, and eventually I won't be able to hold that position for too long. So I'll be back in this position. Then I'll feel uncomfortable in this, and this. Whereas that nice neutral position, you'll sit like this comfortably, like I said, building it up, but maybe even as long as potentially 45 minutes to an hour before you should get up and move around anyway. But at that point, you would never feel any discomfort building on your spine.
Yeah.
So this is just a poster or an image saying spinal decay. It's quite an aggressive term, but it gets the point across. So in this image, we've got a very normal neck, which has kind of got that natural kyphosis that lordosis that we're talking about of the cervical spine, that nice sort of inward curve. But naturally with age, but obviously accelerated by bad posture habits, as you can see, the neck starts to straighten up. This puts a lot more stress on the ligaments and on the muscles, and again, that's what leads to a lot of pain, discomfort, especially later on in life. But whereas this image could be completely normal in what you would see in, let's say, a patient who's 90, you wouldn't want to see that in a patient who's 60. That's showing accelerated wear and tear, probably from bad posture habits. And the same in this image. Pretty good lower back, nice kyphosis, nice space in between the vertebral bodies with the discs. But with bad posture habits, you can then eventually see it become too straightened or exaggerated in the curve. And as you can see, much more pressure would have been building in this person's back. Great.
Thank you.
No problem. All done.
Okay, yeah.
I'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Bye.